Good morning, Flosstube. How are you? I'm okay. We just had Canada Day. Oof, my hair. Canada Day is July 1st, in case you are wondering. That's when we celebrate our country. I hope that you all in the U.S. are going to have a great 4th of July tomorrow. And I actually just watched a primitive stitcher video, and behind her she had this really elaborate, in my opinion anyway, 4th of July like patriotic display of all these amazing embroidered pieces, well, cross-stitched pieces that she had made. And I thought, wow, those are really something else. And she had lots of stars, like metal stars, and objects that were red, white, and blue, and, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. And she said that that Americans are funny about their flags, and so I commented on her video and I said, I wonder why that's like that, because, you know, here anyway in Canada, I think we're more British influenced like that. We don't have the same desire, or I don't know, whatever, to be as demonstrative with our patriotism, even though I've been a military wife in the past, and so I know how it is to, you know, honor the country. And I mean, my husband and I got married, and he got married wearing his uniform, so and there was a Canadian flag in one of the pictures that our photographer took of us. So, you know, my husband still to this day takes his oath almost that he took to the Queen seriously. So I know how it is to be patriotic as a rule. That's fine. But I would never have, for the 1st of July, I would never have a bunch of Canadian flags or stuff, patriotic stuff, displayed specifically for that purpose anyway. I don't know why. It's not because I don't like my country or whatever, but yeah, I think we're just like that culturally as a people. I'm not sure what the difference is, but anyway. So I hope y'all are going to have a good holiday down there. We certainly had a nice long weekend here, and yeah, a shout out also. I just finished watching Mortuary Stitches video. I forget her name, and I am so sorry, but I've certainly heard of her through watching Andrea, the Stitching Shadows channel. I've heard of her through there because Andrea has gotten so many pretty things from her in the mail, patterns and all kinds of cards and cool things from Mortuary Stitches. And apparently she's not well, so I just thought I would give her a shout out here and say I'm so sorry to hear about your ailments. They sound serious, and I know you kept saying you were feeling sorry for yourself, but I don't think that's a bad thing. In your case, you're in ill health, it sounds like, and it's completely human and, in my view, acceptable to feel badly about that, and to have to rest a lot and just generally take it easy. I mean, I've been in ill health myself in the past, and I know how it is. It's really unfun. So, but you see, she's English, so I understand why she's self-conscious about feeling sorry for herself, because we're the same way. In Canada, we're like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for feeling sorry. There's a funny stereotype about apologizing. If you're Canadian, I shared an image on Facebook to my friends that said it was Captain Canada instead of Captain America. So instead of the American flag, it was the Canadian flag, and there was a maple leaf instead of a star, you know. And he had a speech balloon that said sorry. And I was like, yeah, I know. We say that all the time. It's funny. But I understand that the English do that too. They just apologize all the time, or feel like they're being rude if they don't apologize, even if they're not wrong about whatever happened. It's funny. Anyway, it's the first week of summer break for the kiddos in our part of the world. My daughter is 9, and she is unfortunately developing anxiety. I think she's a lot like me in temperament. So she's quite anxious and was like wanting to talk to her friend on the phone, but was terrified to actually dial the numbers on phone, and maybe have to talk to somebody that wasn't her friend and try and introduce herself, and she was just totally stressing herself out. And I was like, you're not going to learn to get over it until you do it. I feel like I'm such a hard ass, but I have to be sometimes, because I don't know, part of it goes back to the way I was raised. I was raised that way, that you have to face up to your fears and things, and you have to just get on with it, because no one's gonna do it for you. So she left. She went, I think she's downstairs. That's why I'm being a little bit quieter than I normally would be. But hopefully you can hear me all right, because I've got a microphone right here in front of me. So hopefully it's picking up my voice better than a webcam mic would. So yeah, we're like only a few hours in to the first official day of summer break, and my kid's already mad at me. I know, I remember being that age, and I remember having the same feelings and things, but I don't know. It's hard. Anybody out there who is a parent, and I know there are many of you who are, will understand that, especially if you've raised a daughter anyway. But it's hard, because I am a sensitive person, and I do understand where she's coming from, but at the same time, you gotta be tough to kind of get through what's bothering you and stuff. I mean, that's why I think whenever I've been in hospital or anything like that, I've been more of a combative patient, because I feel like I'm not being heard or understood or whatever. So I've learned to be more of a warrior than a wallflower when it comes to things in life. So anyway, how about I show you some goodies here. I have finished. If you follow me on Instagram, then you've already seen these, but I figure I would take the trouble to show you. So I laced up the back and added silk ribbon to this little oval piece. That I think I was talking about this in my previous video, actually, about how these hoops are really good because they've got the tongue and groove in them. Well, that's what it was this green frame that I was holding. I remember it being this one. Anyway, here are the mod squares from Amazing Pattern Collection or something from Etsy. This is one of 3, so this is the first one that I did. I stitched it on this violet Ada that I dyed myself, and because of the violet, I thought I would go with the complementary yellows, and other purples of course are there, including a variegated one. This is a variegated violet thread here, and over here, that's a variegated thread right there. And the white is done with some DMC rayon, or S silk. So it's I think S, what number is that bright white, 5200 or whatever? It's that, but with an S in front, because it's the rayon stuff. Why rayon, do you ask? Because I like the special effects threads, and because I'm nuts, I guess, because nobody else really likes them but me, and I like to incorporate that sort of an element in my work. I don't know. So yeah, I just did a gathering stitch and laced the back, and I sewed on, this is silk ribbon, so that I can hang it. So that's that one. The next one that I just finished, I laced the back in the same way, just a gathering stitch. This one is the same rayon thread for the white. Even the squares that are white, that's all the rayon as well. Otherwise, it is cotton. This is green, like a teal Ada that I dyed myself. And instead of it being a complement, like a direct complement, the complement, of course, to green is red. And that goes back to my, like, displaying of patriotism or seasonal stuff. I don't do Christmas. The only Christmassy things that we do around here are like the tree, and that's it. I don't hang anything specifically for it. I might, maybe a wreath that I get for cheap that I'll hang on the door, at the front door, but otherwise I won't. I don't even. Christmas is way too stressful. Having an anxiety issue and a depression issue is really not helpful if you're trying to deal with Christmas, and there's a lot of stereotype around that, I know, but I really do feel like a real life Scrooge. There's a lot of things about Christmas that are just obscene to me. Just the sheer staginess and stress and BS about, you know, family getting along and crap like that, because it's never true. It's not true. It's a lie, and I hate it. I feel like we're lying to ourselves all the time when we try and take those happy Christmas portraits and things. It drives me nuts. Wow, I'm a bitter person, but it's true. It's so many family pictures of myself with my family, and I'm just like, in the picture, because I'm like, I hate lying, and I'm a terrible, terrible actor, so, yeah. So, having said that, instead of red, I went with pinks, different, various pinks. There's this kind of almost purple, like a magenta, and then like a coral, and then further into the salmon and pale pink, and which is perfect because I had this pink frame or hoop. So I rinsed it after I was done. I had some spare magenta rayon, so I used that to do my initials, and sewed on some silk ribbon that is orange, and so that's what those are, and I'm working on the third in the series, and it's a bunch of blue balls. Just kidding. It's I chose blue because I had this orange Ada that I made myself, and it's really cool. I like how it turned out. It's very mottled. See? Anyway, I had it in the closet of supplies, and I thought, well, to carry on this complementary colors theme, I have a blue oval hoop, so I thought, well, I'll take the orange Ada and I will stitch the motif in various shades of blue. So that's why blue. I've got a few shades going on, but the more dominant color at the moment is this blue here, that kind of goes up the middle. There's 3 circles, and it's these supports here. That's a blue in the rayon. So I don't know if you can really tell, but I can in real life, that like this variegated thing right here that's not quite finished yet, that's cotton. And there's that darker blue there, ultramarine blue, that's cotton. And then right next to it, like this right here, this is the light effect, the rayon. And I don't know if you can really tell that it is shinier. It's just got a really nice sheen compared to the cotton. I mean, the cotton is DMC as well, and it's obviously got a nice sheen on it because it's a nice thread, as we all know. But I like having the difference in, also, I like having the difference in height. Like, I don't know, I feel like I'm talking and like none of this actually translates for you, but if you were here and you could feel this, you would feel the difference in height, like physical, like actual depth on the cloth, because the cotton is a thinner thread. Each ply is thinner so than a rayon, and certainly thinner than the light effect metallic. So when you stitch with, say, 2 strands of cotton, which I do typically, and I certainly am on this one, it's 2 plies of cotton, and I'm also using 2 ply of the rayon because I like to do the loop method, especially with rayon thread, because it is so slick. That's probably why people don't typically use it, because it's slippery, whereas the light effect thread is sort of rough. It's kind of abrasive sometimes, depending what color you're using and stuff. Anyway, the rayons are, yeah, they're slippery, so you really want to have them be as secure as you can get them, otherwise you will pull your stitches out, and nobody wants that. So that's what I do. I like using the loop method to start them, and then to finish I will often knot them at the back. I know you're not really supposed to, but I do anyway. And then I will tuck the tail in and trim, just for that added security, because of the slickness. Anyway, loop method, I like to use that, and so by virtue of that I always end up using a double, what looks like a double ply of the rayon, which is considerably thicker than a double ply of cotton. So it just comes out looking thicker, which is okay. I don't mind that at all. In fact, I like that. It's kind of painterly. It's like when you walk up to an oil painting or even an acrylic painting and the artist has used a lot of paint, and so it's like 3-dimensional. It comes off of the canvas. I love that, and I really like that in embroideries of all sorts. So that's why I don't mind. If you do mind and you want to use a single, then you'll have to knot it and stuff at the back, and take a few extra measures. But it's certainly doable. Anyway, so that's sort of where I'm at right now. As some of you who follow me already know, I'm such a monogamous stitcher. My husband thinks that's the most hilarious expression, because he knows about all of the projects that I have. Like, I buy all my cross-stitch patterns as a rule. I tend to get them on Etsy as PDFs, just because it's cheaper that way, and I can print them when I want them, and I can feel free to write all over the pattern and then throw it away when it's, or recycle it when it's done. And I always have the file, so I can print another copy if I want. Whereas with paper patterns, I always have to go to the extra trouble of making a photocopy so that I can write on it and cross off what I've already stitched. So it's just a pain. Like with that Judith Kirby Queen Anne house that I did, that I made into a whorehouse. That was a paper pattern. It was from the late 70s, and though it was nice, it's nice to have a physical copy of it, it was really expensive. I got it on eBay, and it still had the price tag on it from where the seller got it from, and it was like $5 for her, but to get it to me, it cost like $15 in total, like for the price and for shipping. It was just stupid, because it's literally one of those old patterns that folds. It's like a book, but it's like one big piece of cardstock that folds into 2 8.5 by 11 pages. I'm like, There's no way that this is worth $15. I mean, it's just not, but I was just getting started, and I didn't really appreciate that there was a whole big community of designers out there on Etsy that were doing the instant download route. So that's why I paid that premium, and I've never paid it since. Because I had to give that to my husband to take to the firm where he works and photocopy it onto like legal size paper for me. So yeah, instead now I just send him the PDFs and he prints them off for me there. The only reason I don't print them at home is because, well, right now we're out of ink. We've been out of ink forever. And because over there they've got laser printers, and so it's really, really fast, and you can write with whatever kind of ink you're using. You can write over top of the laser toner, right? You can't obviously use like a highlighter or anything over top of inkjet ink, because it'll just run everywhere. So I prefer laser as a rule. And we have had a laser printer. I don't know what ever happened to it. It probably ran out of toner, and we probably thought it's cheaper to buy another printer than to replace the toner cartridge, which is a shame, but it's kind of the way it works with printers. So, wow, that was a long discussion about that. Yeah, as you can see, I feel like total dirt today, but I wanted to update you while I could get my hands on the computer, because when she's up here, my daughter is watching YouTube constantly. I think she's downstairs watching it right now, probably, on our TV down there, because she doesn't want to see me. She's mad at me. I really am not a mean mom, I swear, I swear. At least I try not to be. I know I have my moments, but I am a human being, and even though I try not to be a human being, I try to be the best, you know? It's not possible. I don't understand why, well, that's a lie. I do understand why, oh, this is driving me crazy. There we go. I hate myself a lot of times, because well, I've always been a depressed person. It's just the way I am ever since I was very young. I've always been anxious. My first anxiety attacks happened when I was in like the 3rd grade, like the real kind of anxiety attacks, not just the normal kind of, ooh, I'm anxious about this thing, and then the thing happens, and then it's over. Like, no, I've had like real anxiety attacks ever since, yeah, I was that age, so 7 or 8 years old, and yeah, depression and all of that started around that age as well, and just feeling really, really upset, and having people around me that were like my parents. Even if they had those feelings, they could never articulate them, so when they saw me behaving like that, it really annoyed them, and they wanted to cuff me upside the head and be like, hey, stop it. So I try and be more sensitive with my own child, because I know what it's like to be treated by parents that are insensitive to your feelings. It's really unpleasant. At the same time, I feel badly because I'm I'm super depressed and upset a lot of the time. And I don't feel like I can talk about it with my daughter. She's too young, and I don't want to scare her or anything. I don't want her to be afraid of the future. But I mean, I had severe postpartum depression after she was born. I've been in hospital over it. I've done a lot to myself that has cost me a lot of friendships. I'm indeed extremely lucky that I have the husband that I do, because most men would walk away. I mean, it sounds terrible, but that's the reality of the situation. But he never would. He never did that, even though I said, go ahead, please walk away, because I am a misery to be around, and I don't want to ruin your life any more than I already have. And he would never do that. He said, no, I'm not doing that. I'm here to take care of you, and I'm here to take care of our daughter, and I'm not going anywhere. So that's it. He stuck around, and I mean, I'm grateful, but at the same time, a lot of days I scratch my head and go, I don't understand it. I don't get it. Why you would stick around with a jerk like me that gets depressed all the time. Anyway, I'm sorry. I don't want to burden you. YouTube is supposed to be fun. But I guess that's why I appreciate all of you out there, because I do feel alien a lot of times in the real world. Nobody in my family does any of the stuff that I do. Nobody cross stitches or embroiders or quilts, or like, nobody does that stuff. I think the most common thing that people like in my family is music. And my sister she got more support over music than I did. I wanted to learn to drum, and my mother said, if you want to learn to drum, I will have to commit suicide. Her words, not mine. But my sister said, I want to learn the piano, when she was 10, and my parents said, sure. So she got to learn the piano, and she is a jazz pianist and vocalist, and has her own band, and is doing really well for herself, and I'm really glad, because she deserves it. She's had her share of difficulties in her life, so I'm really glad that she's finally finding the path that she wants to be on. For me, I mean, I went to university and I got a degree in poetry and poetics, and have been published and all of that stuff, but it never brought me the kind of happiness that I was really looking for. And after university was over and I was 8 months pregnant, I thought, well, I'll have my baby and I will feel at peace with the world. Well, that wasn't true. I felt the least amount of peace, I think, with the world after having a daughter. I realized how much stress is involved in being a parent, and how much just worry, just the constant worry of messing up and saying the wrong thing, or doing the wrong thing, or making the wrong face, I didn't appreciate how much that can weigh on a person. So, yeah. And of course, my husband was in law school, well, about to get into law school when I had Bronwyn, and that was just insane, but there you go. That's how we timed it. It was not an accident. People ask me that. Oh, well, did you expect this pregnancy? Was it a wanted pregnancy? And I was like, yeah, it was. I always said to myself, that's the one promise in life that I actually followed through on, that I made happen, is that I never ever would be like my grandmother or my mother or many other women in my background who got busted, if you will, by having an unwanted pregnancy at a young age. My mom is 18 years younger than her mom. So, I mean, my grandma had my mom the day after she turned 18. So, I mean, there's that. And of course, that was a different time. It was the 1950s. You had to, deny your pregnancy, get married, and hope nobody did the math. Which is exactly what happened to my grandma. I always swore that would never happen to me, because we don't live in that kind of a world where that kind of garbage happens. It doesn't have to happen like that. So I never let it happen. So when people ask me if I was expecting this, I always say, yes, I got pregnant exactly when I wanted to. Not earlier, not later. I got pregnant exactly when I wanted to. And it all appeared to be good because it was going to be for my last term of university. And then I would graduate, and then I would have my baby, and I would carry on with my life and be happy. But it didn't work out like that. And then my husband was going to go into, well, he did go to law school, and that was a whole kettle of fish in and of itself. We lost all of our money. We had to sell our home. Then after he graduated, I had to sell the business that I had. I owned a nail salon. I had to basically give it to my sister, because she was in it with me. She still runs a mobile version of it, but we had a brick and mortar salon for a few years, and that was extremely expensive and extremely difficult, so I had to leave that. And my husband couldn't find work after he graduated law school, and we had to leave. We had to move away from where we had been living for, well, I lived in Victoria for 12 years, and I didn't want to leave. I didn't have any real desire to go anywhere, but we had no choice, which is no fun for your mental health. It's not. It's one of the reasons I think I really got interested in quilting and fiber arts in general, is because it's something that I could do, that was portable, and that I could do in my own way, at my own pace. I didn't have to have a deadline for anything. I could just do. There were times when I couldn't do, because I was in the hospital and I wasn't allowed to have needles or scissors, because they were convinced that I was a danger. Even though I tried to explain that when you cross stitch, you use a tapestry needle. They're not sharp. they wouldn't have any of that, so there were times when I would just have to lay there in my bed with my IV and my oxygen and do nothing. But that's a whole other kettle of fish. Yeah, so I'm sorry this video is kind of sad, more than happy, because I obviously, I'm busy getting things done, and, you know, basically enjoying things, but just the odd little thing will happen that just wrecks the day. Like my daughter and calling her friend. It's stupid, but it ruins the day when things like that happen to me. It just like puts the brakes on everything. It's terrible. Because I really don't want her to grow up and hate me. I really don't. I really don't. It's like the worst thing in the world to imagine. So to all of you people out there, all of you moms and dads who don't get depressed after you have a child, consider yourself extremely lucky. Extremely. Extremely. I could never put a price on that. Because before I was even finished being sewn up, after my daughter was pushed out of me, I was already starting to cry. Like postpartum depression is a weird one. I'm not a crier. Even though I am depressive, I don't cry. I don't, have that teariness. But yeah, during the immediate aftermath of a very difficult labor and delivery, all I did was cry. I just cried constantly. I could barely talk. And the nurses were annoyed with me because I didn't want to nurse. They're like, well, you have to. Don't want to. I'm not producing enough milk. I'm busy crying all the time. I cannot produce milk. It wasn't until several weeks later of living with a grouchy, hungry baby that we just broke down and got formula for her. And she was much happier after that, that's for damn sure. But anyway, that was a digression, I apologize. Yeah. My husband developed depression. He never had any issues with depression in his life, ever. And it feels like I brought him right down in there with me. And it's a miserable, miserable notion to live with. So, if you're a new mom, or an intermediate kind of aged mom like me, not intermediate aged, but if you have a child who's about 9, 10, or into their teens, I consider you an intermediate parent, because you're, not dealing with an infant anymore, or a toddler, or anything super little. And if you didn't have to suffer with depression and losing all of your friends because they were scared they were going to catch your depression, I'm not kidding you. They think it's a contagious disease. It's not. It's not a contagious disease. It just happens to some people. So if you know anybody who's depressed, please be patient with them, because that's all we need. That's all we're asking for, is patience, understanding, and caring. We don't want to be mollycoddled. We don't want sympathy necessarily. We want empathy, and we want people to listen and be free of judgment and not think that they're going to catch it if they shake our hands in the way that you would catch a cold. You don't catch cancer from hugging someone who's sick with cancer or AIDS or anything else. It's the same thing, people. It's the same. I mean, I'm pretty sure all you Flosstubers know about that. I hope so anyway, but you all seem to be somewhat enlightened, so I don't necessarily need to preach to the choir about it, but it's just something to be aware of. So, anyway, that's all I have this time around. I've got some other videos that I've already made and rendered and everything else, but I'm kind of saving them, kind of hoarding them for those times when I don't have a chance to sit down like I am right now and do like a proper show and tell or FFO parade or work in progress parade or anything like that. So that's why I'm hanging on to some videos. But I do hope to carry on the same schedule that I've been carrying on with, because it gives me something to work towards and something to think about. So I'm hopeful that next time around I'll be feeling better and you won't have to listen to me ramble on like I have been. So if you've made it this far in the video, thank you so very much for listening. New subscribers, thank you. I've gotten a bunch. Feel free to comment if you want to. That would be nice. I like reading comments and answering them, and it makes me feel like I belong someplace. And I think that's what all of us as human beings, that's all we want, is to be loved and understood. So, thank you for listening, for those of you that have watched all the way through. And I'll see you next time.